Thank you for coming to the Center for Native American and Indigenous Research's first research symposium. I'm Kelly Wisecup. I'm really happy to welcome you today. I will say more in a minute, but first we're going to have a land acknowledgement and a song.
Bonjour, Patty Loew, Indigenous Cause, Mashkazibi, and Dojaba, Mamdodam. I'm Patty Loew. I'm a Bad River tribal member and a member of the Loon clan. I am so pleased. This is really exciting for us. This is the culmination of our first full year as a research center. I want to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral lands of the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa, the people known as the Three Fires. We're also on the ancestral lands of the Ho-Chunk, the Menominee, and the Miami. This was a place that was used and loved by many, many different tribal peoples from as far back as anyone can remember. And as we stand here in the center and we look out in the four directions, we're so grateful that the land ethic of the people who loved this land then and still love this land is still present in what we do as we think about not just the generational trauma that connects Native people, but also the generational joy and innovation and bliss that allowed us to survive into the 21st century. So we come to this gathering with gratitude, with mindfulness, and with thankfulness, as will be evident in the song of thankfulness from Jasmine and Pam.
We're going to sing a thank you song taught to a group of us by Mary Ellen Baker, who's a Jew. I'm going to speak a little bit to the vision of CNAIR and talk about the vision for research that kind of brings us all together today. So it was 18 months ago that our center was established, and this is a good time to really acknowledge and thank first of all, the students, because we wouldn't be here without our wonderful students and their fine minds that we get to teach and who teach us. We're also grateful to the faculty and staff that support and nurture them. And we also want to acknowledge that we wouldn't be here without the administrators. Patty Loew and Adrienne Randolph, who had a vision and took the initiative to find the grant that allowed us to establish ourselves. We really wanted to do something different. A lot of times the focus on Native research is on universities and scholars who are interested in doing research on Native Americans. And it was really important to us that we conduct research with Native Americans, research that's framed by Native communities, and we take a supportive role and really follow their lead. So we feel really grateful that we've been able to take that path here at Northwestern. I'm sure there's a road ahead. I know that we'll probably make mistakes along the way, but with the faculty, the students, the faculty, the staff, the administrators, and our allies, which have always been really important in Native history and contemporary times. Our non-Indigenous allies are really critical to what we're trying to do. So as we move forward, we're trying, I'll go back to my 4 directions again. We like to do things in 4s in your country. So we're centered here with land identity and sovereignty. And as we look in the directions here at Northwestern, we're trying to encourage research and form partnerships and create a collaborative spirit around our creative expression, around our place in social justice, in the social world, in civil society. Our other direction is towards the natural world, to think about how we connect not only to the people that came before us, but to our relatives, the ones that crawl, the ones that wing, the ones with wings, the 2-leggeds, the 4-leggeds, and really be mindful. You know, I always think about the question that Robin Kimmerer asked in her book Braiding Sweetgrass, and if you haven't read Braiding Sweetgrass, it's really one of the best books I've ever read. She talks about how people will say, "Oh, I love nature. I love walks on the beach. I love being out in the woods. I just love nature." Well, what if we truly, as human beings, believe that nature loved us back? How would that affect our behavior? How would that change the way we relate to the natural world? So this is another direction that we hope to explore. And then the 4th direction is our direction outward toward other Indigenous people and their allies around the world. And where do our experiences align? Where do they intersect? What commonalities do we have that we can explore together? So 4 directions, but also the 4 values that I've come to appreciate often characterize successful, collaborative Indigenous research. Respect, we call them the 4 R's. Respect, relationship, reciprocity, and responsibility. Sometimes relevance too. There may be 5, but when you think about research, respectful research, that's pretty obvious. But relationships, the way to sustain long-term research. I've seen an awful lot of research projects that aren't really based on humility and on collaboration, and those relationships don't last, and the research isn't sustained. So relationship building is a way that we can sustain those relationships in Indian country. Reciprocity is also really important. There are a lot of academics who have written books and gained tenure and gotten, jobs and created a pretty good living for themselves off the research that they've done in Indian country, and those tribal communities have never really benefited or shared in that research. So thinking about what we do in a way that is reciprocal, that the communities that we say we want to collaborate with get something out of that as well. And then responsibility to not only think about the ethics of the research we do and conforming to the institutional review board requirements, the IRBs, that if we do research with Native people, we're often required to submit to the institutional review board process. But thinking about the research protocols that exist in the tribal communities with which we're partnering. Are there councils of elders? Are there tribal IRBs? To think about the consequences of our research and make sure that we're always acting in a responsible, ethical way. So these are the kinds of things that I see as we look back at our first full year as a center. And the humanhood, the sisterhood, brotherhood that we are trying to create with a horizontal leadership structure in our center, with the humility where we hope to bring to the tribal communities we would like to partner with, and to spend more time on ourselves, thinking about what we have to do to change to be a welcoming space for Native students, faculty, staff, and administrators. We like to talk about how we're going to prepare students of color so that they can succeed at our university. But what about the work that we have to do institutionally to change the space so that we can allow people with different worldviews and different perspectives to shine here? So these are some of the things that I'm thinking about on this day when I'm so excited for what we've created. I know a lot of us in the center we really feel this energy, this sense that there's something really important and beautiful that's being created here. And everybody in this room is contributing to that with your presence here today. And I just want to acknowledge and truly thank you for doing what you've done in so many ways to support our initiative. I want to thank my wonderful colleagues who just share a vision, Kelly and Pam and Jennifer, who have made this day possible. I want to acknowledge the hands that made the food that we're sharing, and I wish all of you safe travels back to wherever you came from, and thank you so much, Jamie Butch, you.
So as Patty looks forward and speaks a little bit about the vision for the center, we also wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what this year has brought for us and just celebrating some of the successes that we have seen this year. So I'm going to give you a very quick sense of what that was. We're then going to honor a recent donation of a book collection to Northwestern by somebody who has been really important for Northwestern English, for my graduate students, for me, and for others in this room. So we'll speak a little bit about that in a moment. So I want to acknowledge the fact that we have grown our affiliate list this year. We have 10 new affiliates. Many of them are in the room. Jorge, Ramon, Janet, I hope I'm not missing anybody, and Scott, thank you. We're really excited to have new affiliates with us. They brought a lot of energy and wonderful support to the center. We're also really thrilled to celebrate the election of Patty Loew to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. I feel super lucky to work with Patty pretty much every day, and I'm glad the American Academy is finally getting on board and recognizing. We also want to acknowledge recent hires and changes in positions for folks. Megan Bang joined Learning Sciences, or sort of joined Learning Sciences. She's at the Spencer Foundation for a couple years, and then she'll be joining Northwestern full-time in a couple of years. We're also really thrilled that Beatrice Baez moved from a postdoctoral position to assistant professor of research. You'll be hearing today from all of our graduate fellows and a few of our undergraduate fellows. One of the best things that I got to do this year was read fellowship applications from students across Northwestern's campus and get a sense of the work in Indigenous research that is being done around in various departments. And then to work with those students over the course of the quarters, to hear about the projects, to be in conversation with them, and to see their projects emerge. So I'm really excited about the graduate panels coming up at 12:45 and 2, and I know the research is going to be awesome. You're really going to enjoy those. Let's give a quick hand for our We're also extremely lucky this spring to be joined by Margaret Pierce, who is a cartographer, even though that word doesn't really encapsulate all the things she does. She's thinking about place, she's thinking about stories, she's thinking about language. And so she's been with us for this month. Part of her work is to give a keynote here today, but she's also visited classes. She's leading a mapping workshop for a grant project on the Indigenous Mississippi River next week. She's been in conversation with us throughout the month, so we're really lucky to have her here and very much looking forward to her keynote. And then Patty acknowledged the staff, but we just want to say thank you so much to the amazing program assistant / keeps the world moving while also juggling a million other balls, Jennifer Michaels, and Pam Silas, who brings a lot of energy both inside the university and outside to us. And then our advisory council, who we met with for the first time this year, Nikki and Forrest and Patrick are here. We're so grateful for them for sharing their administrative expertise and helping us shape the vision for the center. So thank you all so much. I'm really thrilled today to be able to recognize LaVonne Ruoff. She is a graduate of Northwestern's BS in Education and of the MA and PhD programs in English. This is my department. She's also a renowned scholar and editor of Native American literatures. She made a generous donation to Northwestern's libraries of her book, her collection of Native American literatures. 5 of them are displayed here on this table. You can get a glimpse. And they'll be displayed across the way, across the hall, I should say, during the reception. So if you'd like to get a sense of the collection, then you can get a sneak peek. It's still being processed and isn't quite available for research at the libraries yet. This donation of books to Northwestern has resulted in ongoing collaborations between CNAIR and the libraries, as well as anticipated classes and projects involving students who will work with the collection. So I want to say a few words about how LaVonne's scholarship has shaped the field of Native Literary Studies and my own teaching and research by way of trying to talk about how important this collection is for us to have at Northwestern. So I started writing these remarks not by sitting at my computer, as you might imagine I did, but by standing at my bookshelf and pulling out the books that LaVonne has edited and written. They got to be a stack that got too big to carry over. But they included the edition of George Cockway's Life, Letters, and Speeches that gives us a look into Ojibwe life in the 19th century, of Dakota Charles Eastman's autobiography, From the Deep Woods to Civilization, and S. Alice Callahan's novel, Waimea. They also include the many books in the University of Nebraska American Indian Lives series. LaVonne's editing work has remade timelines of Native American literatures, pushing us from a beginning in the mid-20th century to acknowledge whole centuries of writing and publishing that had happened long before N. Scott Momaday won the Pulitzer Prize in 1969. She made it possible for us to read and teach books that pushed that timeline much, much earlier, and also loosened its ties to the American literary canon. She lets us see Native literature, as the Creek scholar Craig Womack puts it, not as some branch waiting to be grafted onto the main trunk. Tribal literatures are the tree, the oldest literatures in the Americas. LaVonne's work has made that tree visible. So the book that I pulled off of my shelf is perhaps an unlikely one. It's a book that gestures to the ways that her work has been one of editing and writing, but also one of making spaces within institutions for other scholars and students and people to come into and understand Native American literatures. So this is the American Indian Literatures, an introduction, bibliographic review, and selected bibliography. It's a book I consulted early on in my days as a grad student, trying to get a sense of the field of Native American literatures. And it's a book that gives us a cogent and really accessible introduction to Native literatures, as well as invaluable resources for finding the journals, small presses, and scholarly books that were so important for building the field of Native literatures and making it possible for Native writers to publish and circulate their books. This book, I think, also signals the ways that LaVonne has worked within multiple scholarly fields to make space for Native scholars and Native literatures. So just two examples of that. She was a founder and a member of the executive committee and chairperson of the MLA discussion group called the Division on American Indian Literatures. So it's now called the Forum on Indigenous Literatures in the United States and Canada. And it's a space at one of the biggest conferences for literary scholars. It's like 30,000 people take over the downtown of a city. And within that huge conference, it's a space for great conversations about Native literatures and a space that Native scholars and writers see as really important and welcoming, thanks to LaVonne's work. She is also a founder and president of the Association for the Study of American Indian Literatures, which is still the foremost society for the study of Native literatures. Her work to support the teaching and research of Native literatures works at the level of the organization and also of the graduate class. So when I taught my first graduate class at Northwestern 4 years ago, she visited us and talked with my students about her editing work and her work on George Cockaway. This is a class visit that my students still talk about, so it made a real impact on the ways that they understood the field of Native literatures and also their own work and their own study. Her generosity as a scholar and a mentor to me have been invaluable in the ways that I think about my own work. And it makes me really happy to be able to work in the same institution that awarded LaVonne her degrees, hopefully a much different department than the one that existed when she came here, in good ways, and to try to carry on her legacy at Northwestern English. So I'm going to turn things over to Pam now to say a few words about LaVonne's legacy within the community here in Chicago.
So I get to really just speak to this woman in a very heartfelt place. You really embody the vision of this Jesus. The weight of the people that, the joy of the people that you've impacted, what's causing my tears. Because it's made a difference for so many. Besides this amazing academic success that she's enjoyed, she's never been out of reach of a community that she's represented. That's why I say you embody what we hope we can do across this campus. As a mother, opening her home, adopting 2 children, to mentoring countless aspiring writers, to providing mentorship to those of us who are trying to make a change in our community. I remember you giving me advice on my resume when I landed the biggest job of my life, running the American Indian Economic and Development Association. The countless times we've reached out to you to understand the politics and the best way forward, keeping the high road. Crying on your shoulders when things got frustrating. The leadership that you provided for some of our organizations, acknowledging the greatness through your Indian Council firework, where back many, many years ago began recognizing ourselves, recognizing the Native talent in our communities, all of the leadership, all of those meetings, all of those records. You know, you definitely deserve retirement for all of the things that you've done. And I can't say how honored we are that your babies, your lifelong collection, I know how hard it was to part with them the day that we put those in boxes in your house. You weren't even there to see because you were struggling. But I just want to say, Wyland, a very heartfelt thank you on behalf of my community and all of the people that you helped. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will be brief. As everybody's mentioned, it is an amazing big collection. It came over in 80 boxes, 1,500 volumes. So I want to acknowledge Patty and Kelly and Pam and Jennifer for all the work they did on the logistics and getting it over and finding a temporary space for it. And especially to Patty and Kelly for letting us fill up your offices with boxes of books. And a special thanks to LaVonne for this exceptional. As a person charged with going through that collection and seeing what was in it, I have to say it was an absolute joy. Opening every box was like Christmas every day. A surprise in every box. Just amazing. And I have to say, for the library, this collection is foundational for us. We've collected for a long time academic books about American culture and history. A big gap in our collection was Native American literature. And this one gift puts us on the map in that regard. And as Kelly mentioned, provides us with so many opportunities for faculty and students to engage in material. Let's talk just a little bit about the collection. It includes a wealth of Native American focused material, including the entire run of the Native American Lives series by the University of Nebraska Press, the Native American Bibliography series from Scarecrow Press, for both of which LaVonne served as series editor. Many nonfiction books, children's books, art books, but the heart of the collection is Native American literature. Includes poetry chapbooks, small press volumes, many which include early writings by authors who have since won major literary awards and written bestsellers. It also includes many first editions by Native writers. Includes dozens of special issues of major literature journals that issue special issues around Native American literature. And it includes shelves and shelves of books that were dedicated, inscribed by the authors to LaVonne. I'd like to read one of those right now, if I may. A book by Marilu Agakta, close. To LaVonne Ruoff, with thanksgiving that you are, in American literature, a mother of the nation. In philosophy, a kindred spirit, a salute. And in person, a red-hot grandmother. That's nice to you all. So, in conclusion, thank you so much for this work.
Thank you.
One of the things is indigenized Northwestern.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. That's so generous. I'll cry later.
Patty, do you want me to just move it?
It's been a while since I've been on the campus. I was here for many years because of I got my bachelor's in education because I registered for the wrong thing. I should have been registered in English, but I got my bachelor's in education.
Self-English major.
Right, but student teaching at New Trier convinced me that I wanted to be a college teacher. Shoving football players into their seats so I could. But I'm delighted to participate in this. I'm so proud that you all got this started. And I will add that when I was acting director of the McNichol Center, I tried to get Northwestern to participate in the colloquia that we had and was told that you weren't interested. So I pay great homage to Kelly for what she and her helpers have been able to achieve. I'm just thrilled and delighted.
now, my papers have gone to UIC, so you could look at the books, and then you could come down to UIC to read all the gossip. And I also want to pay tribute to the fiction group of the Glen Ellen and Wheaton branch of the American Association of University Women, who packed all those books. And I wasn't there because the night before I had fallen on the floor and was on the floor for 12 hours until they arrived at 9 the next morning. And then they insisted that I go to the hospital and be checked out. And she came over to see at the hospital. I was fine, but nevertheless. If I were to characterize my educational and academic career, I have to say that it's the motto of never let anybody tell you you can't do something. And I add that because I come from a background, my mother was a country school teacher, but my father was a farmer and a steel worker in Harvey, Illinois. And they did not have money to send me to college. My first 2 years were at Navy Pier, and I worked half-time. I married in 1950 and worked as a secretary for a year to get the money so that I could come to Northwestern, only to be told by the examining doctor that he did not think I should enter college because it was too much for me to be both a wife and a student. So, much for him. And during the time that I was going to school, I was the only married woman in any of my education classes or in English. There were married men because there were still a lot of veterans going to college. My closest friends were in Nisei. I came across a group over in the hall there where we ate lunch, and I asked if I could sit with them because I had a lot of Nisei friends that I had worked at with the AC Procurement Company and also with the National Council of Religious Education. So those were my closest friends in college. When I got my degree, I took my children, who were then 4 and 6, out for dinner. And of course they thought it was a birthday. And they carried any dinner out as a birthday. No, Mommy got her doctor's degree. And my daughter said, "Oh, goody, now Mommy can give me all my shots." And Stephen, who was 6, said, "Don't be dumb, Sharon. Mommy can't be a doctor, she can only be a nurse." So that put me in my place. Even when your own kid doesn't, the child needed some education. So, you might wonder why a wasp like me ended up so dedicated to the causes of American Indians and to expanding the horizons for their education and understanding. Much of that came through my father, because my father in 1908 went up to North Dakota near Halliday, which is still is a town of about 2,000, and proved up land up there, and worked as a cowboy to keep him going during the time that he was trying to build up the land. Lived in a sod hut. His brother went with him. He was there until 1913 and owned that land until the 40s. But while he was there, he started up a band from an Indian reservation of semi-professional baseball. And they traveled from reservation to reservation on the weekends to play ball. So those people were very kind to my father. And they fed him, because he was 40 miles from the nearest town. So he always had great respect for him, and he had many pictures of Indian families that's where my initial interest came. there. Subsequently, he came back to farm, served in World War I, and then they sold the farm in 1928 because every farmer was going flat broke at that time. And so he became a steel worker, which is what he earned his living. Another influence was my former husband, Milford Frazier, who was a Wisconsin Stockbridge, Muncie, Mohican. And I spent a lot of time on the Menominee Reservation where his family had a considerable number of friends and with interactions with the family. Third influence was my work with the Chicago Indian community, particularly the American Indian Council Fire, which gave out the Lifetime Achievement Award, and the UIC Native American Sport Program. One of my students and advisees sits there is now directs that program. I served on the board for that program, which was started in 1971, one of the first in the nation, for about 26 years, past retirement. I also taught special composition courses for Indian students because they weren't getting through Composition 101 and 102, and used Indian literature and works, most of which I had to Xerox and mimeograph. Because so many books were totally out of print. It was very difficult to do that. The final influence was being accepted in a seminar sponsored by the Modern Language Association and by the National Endowment of Humanities. They sponsored two that summer, one in American Indian contemporary literature and the other in African American. And out of both of those seminars came books designed to help teachers create courses and provide bibliographies and so forth. So that's where the WASP got strongly introduced to Indian ways of life through meeting with Indian people, working with them, and in that seminar. So it was a very profitable time. I also edited for 23 years, unpaid, the American Indian Live series for the University of Nebraska Press. And during the 23 years, we published 38 books, usually about 2 a year. Again, most of these were by contemporary authors. Sometimes it was a problem. I remember a friend of mine was working with a well-known healing man who was a Lakota, and they had a tape recorded about 1,000 typewritten pages. And he came to me and he said, "I don't know what to do with this, but I want to make a book out of it." So I had to show them what structure they had there, and then take out what, you know, would have been nice, but we couldn't afford to publish. So it created some conundrums sometimes. I've enjoyed the work. It's frustrating when you get to my age and it's too hard to get to the library. The ideas are there, but I had to go in last week and it took me the next day to recover. We just don't have control the way we used to. I also, during my career, directed the first seminars sponsored by NEH on American Indian literature. I did 4 of those. And I'm still in contact with a number of the people who attended those. So it's been a busy life, but a fulfilling. I'm also very grateful for the friendships I made over that time. Many are still friends. A number of my friends have died either by natural causes or a couple suicide. But I still have the memories of our times together and the jokes, and just reading through a few things there bring back memories of Awiakta. We had decided at this conference in Missouri that we needed to start what we would call the Red Boots Club. That's where the red boots come from, because she had red boots. And these would be primarily in Indian, and then a few hangers-on like myself. and we would just kick up our heels. So there are memories like that. It's been a joy to see the development of writers like Louise Erdrich, whom I've known since before she became famous, and attended her weddings and and to have contact with writers like Darryl Visner, whom I've known since before he started writing, and he's sent me recently a copy of what he says is going to be his last book. I remember our conversation in 1979 when I was at Garton, and he said he was having trouble placing his first book. And I said, is it the world's most complicated novel? And he said, yes. So thank you so much, and I wish you all good luck.